Back on the Peter King podcast, really happy to be joined by Taysom Hill. And Taysom, we're recording this at the Super Bowl, but actually your kind of big moment, big time is not going to happen until probably March. I don't know when exactly we're going to air this, but you're like the most interesting guy in the NFL going into free agency because no one really has any idea what's going to happen with you. I asked Sean Payton, he was right at this table yesterday, I said, will Sean Payton get a restricted free agent contract offer from somebody? And he said he thought you would, that somebody would be very interested in you. And it's such a weird situation because, as it strikes me, no one really knows exactly what you are because you haven't shown it yet, but everybody is really kind of fascinated with you. Is it a weird spot for you to be in right now?
Yeah, well, I would say weird, yes, because I haven't been there before, but I have a vision for myself and what I think I can be and what I can accomplish in the NFL. And so really at this point, as you get to free agency, it's figuring out what that vision is for yourself, and it's finding the right opportunity with the right staff, the right, build around you to make those things align. And that's really, as I approach free agency, that's kind of my thought process. And, to answer your next question, I do feel like the Saints' vision for me and my vision for myself, I do think that those things marry.
Look, this is just me as somebody who really likes to watch football, but I have to tell you, I'd love to see you play for Sean Payton for the next 10 years. Because, I don't know if you remember, but a year ago I was in, Sean Payton allowed me to see your Saturday night prep session.
Yep.
So we were in a hotel in New Orleans and we were in a ballroom and you're doing the walkthrough with some of the plays.
Yep.
And this play comes up in which there's 3 receivers to the right, 3 receivers to the left. You're in the trips formation to the right, and Drew Brees is in the trips formation of the left. And I looked out there and I said, there is no quarterback and there's no running back on the play. And Peyton is kind of making like the play clock is running down, 10, 9, 8, and like at about 6, you sprint into the backfield, you take the snap, and anyway, that's what happened the next day. But how much fun must that be for a football player to have just incredibly weird stuff invented week after week?
Oh, man, I would tell you the last few years I've had so much fun playing for the Saints, and Coach Payton has so much swag, where I think most coaches can't get away with doing crazy things like that. But Coach he doesn't care. He loves it. He's always trying to find opportunities to do stuff like that. And, I've been the beneficiary of being involved in a lot of them, frankly. And, I think Drew has had a lot of fun with it. We've had a lot of fun together, going through it together. But it is fun every Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. I wake up early and I get the install, and I kind of like looking around to see where I'm going to end up that week.
Is it different almost every week?
Almost every week. No, 100%. As you look at our game plans, you look at our personnel groupings, there's always something that's unique and different.
I've got to think that part of it must be slightly frustrating for somebody who I'm sure wants to play every play, but it also must be a lot of fun because you're doing something that nobody else in the NFL does.
Yeah, that was one of those things that as I looked at the situation, and I look at my position of playing quarterback, which is ultimately the end goal for me, you quickly realize that, look, Drew is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best to ever play the position like he's going to play. But after that, like, there's not another quarterback that plays, And so as I looked at the situation, it's like, well, do I want to stand on the sideline holding a clipboard and, going through that, or man, why don't I try to find opportunities? And so I have welcomed those.
You started that on special teams, right, with Mike Westhoff?
Yeah. Yep. And I welcome those opportunities, those experiences, and then it just kind of grew into what it is today, and it's been awesome.
I remember after the the playoff game against Minnesota where you threw the beautiful deep ball, and I heard the radio call of one of the next plays that you were in the game, and the radio call was, "Uh-oh, this guy's in. I never thought I'd be able to say this, but I'm kind of glad that Taysom Hill is out of the game." It's crazy to say we'd like to see Breeze, but you just sort of got hot at the end of the year. Do you think you have shown teams enough right now entering free agency that somebody would say, we want this guy to be our quarterback?
I hope so. And as I look at free agency, and you never really know how an organization views you, how other teams, view you. But as I look back at the 2019, 18, 17 season and preseasons, my goal was always to take advantage of every opportunity that was presented to me. And I feel at peace that I was able to do that. And I feel really comfortable that whatever happens is going to be a good situation for me and my family.
Two other things just about that aspect and about how you play. Do you think part of the reason why you appealed to Peyton and why you appeal to any offensive coach is not just your versatility, but Drew Brees has said that this guy is a grinder, and he comes in the morning. He spends the long hours. He does that. He studies this. So even though I guess technically Drew is trying to hold you back a little bit, not really, because he wants to see you succeed as well. How much has it helped you to have that kind of guy in front of you?
Yeah. Look, I tell people all the time, it's been the best thing for my career that I could have ever asked for. I look at Drew, and, there's no doubt that he's one of the best to ever do it. And I think there's this natural competition with guys that aren't really wanting to give all their secrets away because they know what it takes to be at that level. And I'll tell you, from the second I got there, Drew has been like an open book to me, and he has just shown me everything that he's done, and he's become one of my best friends. He's like a big brother to me, and he's been an incredible mentor. And I realized how much I didn't know before I got to the NFL, before I started working with him, and what it took to play the position, and he's shown me that.
Do you have a total gut feeling now about whether Drew Brees will be on a football field or in a broadcast booth in 2020?
I don't know.
Are you just saying that, or do you truly don't know?
Well, look, if I did know, I don't know that I'd be blasting it out right now. But look, I'll tell you, I certainly hope he comes back and plays. I think it's better for the NFL, frankly. I think if he's out playing.
Yeah.
If you look at what he did last year, he played at such a high level, had his highest QBR of his career last year. I mean, the guy continues to do it all, and he's a great leader for our team. And man, I hope he comes back.
I'm going to go back to one more thing about imagination with Sean Payton. Do you remember one time over the last 2 or 3 years where you walked in on Wednesday and you saw a play and you just got incredibly excited because you were going to get to run that play in a game? Has there been a time?
Oh yeah.
And tell me about it, and tell me why you think that it was a play that you really wanted to run.
Yeah, well, I will say that happens every week. And I could point to several plays just in that Minnesota game, and the first being the 50-yard completion to Deontay Harris down the field. And as we talked about that play, as we drew it up, it's funny, Coach will get on the board and he'll say, like, listen, this is how it's going to work out. Safety's going to take Mike, and, Deontay's going to run this on the corner, and he's going to be wide open. So just throw it. And it's crazy because if you look at it, it played out exactly how he thought it was going to play out. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but Sean is really good, man, at putting schemes together where it plays out exactly how he expected it. And that was one of those for sure where I was like, man, I hope that play gets called. And it did, and it was successful.
I want to do one question about history. okay? When the Saints brought you onto their team, you had been basically kind of a spare part in Green Bay.
Yep.
Okay? And you had an opportunity there. And I remember one of the things that Peyton told me at the time, no one had ever heard of you. No one knew anything about you. And no one had any idea if you were even going to make this team for any period of time. And I said, what's he like, Sean? And he goes, I might be crazy, but I think he's got a chance to be Steve Young. And you must have heard things like that. And after one team just cuts you kind of naturally, it wasn't a shock to anybody. What was it like to hear a really imaginative coach say that about you?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a unique thing for any successful athlete, and I think it takes obviously someone that's competitive and motivated to do and put the work in to be successful, but I also think it requires someone that believes in you, a coach, and it takes someone like that to create opportunities for you. And I look at my career, Coach Peyton has always been that for me. He's always been a guy that's believed in me, and as a player, like, that was empowering to me. Mike Westhoff is another one of those guys.
Their
to me.
Special teams coach when you got there.
Yep. And he created opportunities for me to get on the field. But it's one of those things that when you know a coach believes in you and creates opportunities for you, like, I'm extra motivated to not let them down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it requires that to really, be successful and to really accomplish everything that you can. And it has been empowering for me.
Well, I'll get you out of here on this. I think in some ways you're obviously, it's a mystery what's going to happen over the next couple of months. It depends on a lot of things. What happens with Drew Brees? What happens with Teddy Bridgewater? All these things. But the alternatives for you are not bad, because if the Saints put a first-round tender on you and someone makes a bid for you, it's probably not going to be a team like in the top 10.
Yeah.
I think it would tend to be a team maybe lower in the first round. So you either could stay with the New Orleans Saints and Sean Payton, as imaginative as any play designer and play caller in football, or you could go somewhere where the team is pretty good, where, if you're maybe even a playoff team. And so I sort of look at it, and I wonder what goes through your mind when you consider what could happen in March.
Honestly, I haven't really gotten too far into all of that, because I think really being a restricted free agent kind of limits what that would look like. But, look, I've had a lot of conversations with my agent, and he kind of knows who would be interested and, who would be high on me. And I think it's one of those things that we'll take it as it comes. But for right now, I feel really at peace with what I did for the first 3 years of my NFL career, that whatever happens, my wife and I will be happy.
I'll tell you one last thing. About a week ago, a general manager for a very good team in the NFL, I was on the phone with him, and he just asked me this question. He goes, 2 questions. Do you think the Saints would match if they have a first-round tender on Taysom? Would they match if we made it very heavy in the first year or so? And I said, I don't think they would if Brees comes back. But if Brees doesn't come back, I don't think Sean Payton is going to let Taysom go. And he goes, well, how heavy? I said, I don't have any idea. But I just started to think to myself, this is a really good team in the NFL asking about you. And I just thought, whatever happens to Taysom Hill, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, well, and look, that's, like I said, I'm excited. I'm optimistic about the future, and so it's one of those things that I feel like I have a great foundation as far as being able to learn from and watch Drew, that it laid a great foundation for the rest of my career, whatever that may look like.
Taysom Hill, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights. From NBC Sports,